My best friend tried to swap our lives with a set of bracelets. So I gave them to a rat and a pig. My best friend claimed she declimbed thousands of steps at a sacred temple to get me 3 blessed crystal bracelets. 1 for good grades, 1 for a happy family, and 1 for good health. I was so happy I put them on immediately and never even took them off to shower. But a week later, during an international dance competition, I suddenly forgot all my moves on stage. I stumbled, fell, and lost my scholarship. My parents, who had been so deeply in love, started to despise each other. They got into a fight while driving on the highway and died in a car crash. I spent days in the ICU. They couldn't save my legs. I was a paraplegic. My fiancé was disgusted and broke up with me on the spot. I went crying to my best friend, only to find that she, who couldn't dance to save her life, had won first place in that same international competition, becoming the dance world's new rising star. Her parents, who used to fight constantly, were now loving and happy. Even her congenital heart defect had miraculously disappeared. When I saw her and my ex-fiancé hugging, I completely broke down. Before I could even say a word, they strangled me to death with a rope. Only after I died did I understand. The problem was the crystal bracelets. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the exact moment my best friend was giving them to me. Luna, I climbed thousands of steps on my knees to get these good luck charms for you. Quick, try them on. Jenna held out the beautifully wrapped box, her voice sickeningly sweet. To help you ace your studies, have a happy family, and stay healthy. Seeing this familiar scene play out again, my mind went hazy. In my last life, I had gleefully accepted these bracelets and put them on right away. After that, my entire life was turned upside down. I struggled to stay calm, barely stopping myself from hurling the gift box across the room. I took it from her and said quietly, "Thanks." Seeing my flat reaction, both of them froze. My fiancé Kevin spoke first. "Your best friend risked her life for these, you know. She almost broke her arm climbing up there. And that's all you have to say? You're not even going to open it?" He scowled, clearly annoyed. Jenna looked at me expectantly, her voice soft and whiny. "Don't be mad at her. I'm sure she's just so happy she's at a loss for words." Watching them exchange flirty looks made me sick to my stomach, but I forced a grateful expression. "Thank you, Jenna. You really shouldn't have." I opened the box. Inside lay 3 exquisite crystal bracelets. Purple for my studies, green for my family, and yellow for my health. A faint, strangely beautiful light shimmered around each one, making it hard to look away. I stared at the bracelets, making no move to put them on. "Hurry, try them on." Jenna grabbed the bracelets, about to force them onto my wrist. I dodged, smiling as I explained, "Not yet. I need to take a shower first. I don't want to get them dirty." Jenna was clearly getting impatient, but she couldn't argue with my excuse. "Okay, fine. But you have to promise you'll wear them. It took so much effort to get them for you." Kevin glanced at the bracelets, his happiness looking all too real. "They're beautiful. I'm sure they'll bring our Luna happiness and health." Watching them flirt as if I wasn't even there, the hatred in my heart grew deeper. I hated myself for not seeing their shady behavior before, for thinking they were the 2 people closest to me in the world. In my last life, I really had taken the bracelets with giddy excitement, moved beyond words. But after that, my mind grew foggier and foggier. I couldn't focus on anything. I just figured it was pre-competition anxiety, that I wasn't sleeping well. Then, on the day of the competition, I completely blanked on stage. I lost my balance and fell right off. My failure brought shame to my school. The scandal blew up online, with people claiming I had bought my way into the university. In the end, I received an expulsion letter, saying goodbye to the dream of being a dance star that I'd had for over a decade. From that moment on, my life went into a nosedive. My once loving parents suddenly became enemies, quickly burning through all our family's savings. The house was filled with constant screaming. That fall from the stage was too high. Even though they saved my life, I was left a high-level paraplegic. My health was shot, and with no money for treatment, I could only take painkillers for a few moments of clarity. In that state, Kevin, my fiancé, showed up with his parents to aggressively call off the engagement. He sneered at my condition. You really think you can marry me looking like this? Who would want a cripple who's only got a top half? His parents were arrogant and loud. How dare you waste so many years of my son's time? Pay up. You have to compensate us. At least $10,000. That's for my son's pain and suffering. They took the last few nice things we had in the house as their compensation and left. Pushed to the brink, I saw Jenna trending on social media, holding a trophy under the headline Dance Prodigy. She had never even taken a dance class, yet she'd won first place in a world-class competition, moving like a graceful butterfly, earning the admiration of the entire audience and a reputation as a genius. Not to mention her parents, who used to fight non-stop, were suddenly a happy, loving couple. I dragged myself to see Jenna, holding on to my last shred of hope, only to be completely crushed. The man who had abandoned me was now her boyfriend. I broke down and confronted them, but his response was cold. I've only ever loved Jenna. You were just a stepping stone to get to her. I was still wearing the bracelets. Hearing his words, I was so enraged I tried to smash them. Jenna's face tightened, and she immediately stopped me. They exchanged a look. Kevin pinned my struggling arms down while Jenna grabbed a rope to wrap around my neck. Well, since you found out, you might as well die. I didn't have time to think. The rope tightened around my throat, and I died in agony and despair. Only after death did I understand it was all a trap. Those 3 crystal bracelets had swapped my life with Jenna's. This time, I would never let them walk over my corpse to their perfect life. I can't wait. How about I go home right now, shower and put them on? I said with a smile, noticing the flash of mockery in Jenna's eyes. I turned down their offer to walk me home, and went straight to a crystal shop to buy 3 identical bracelets. Then, I found a sewer drain and tossed the bracelet for family harmony in there with some leftover food. Soon, I heard squeaking from the drain. Once I was sure a rat had taken the bracelet, I drove to a state park. Even in the dark, the crystal bracelet for health glowed brightly. I threw it under a tree and backed away. Soon, a bat swooped down and snatched it up. The bracelet for my studies I threw into a pig farm, placing it right next to a massive hog. Only after all that was done did I go home. A text from Jenna came through. Luna, did you put them on? They must look so good. Send me a pic so I can see. I snapped a photo of my wrist with the 3 fake bracelets and sent it to her. She replied, satisfied. Yep, I knew it. That color looks great on you. Hope all your wishes come true, Luna. I didn't reply. A little while later, she updated her Instagram feed. Hey guys, check out my new nails. The picture was of her fingers resting on a man's abs. Her cat-eye nails were sharp and stunning. In the corner of the photo was a half-open box of condoms and a man's watch. Even in the dim light, I recognized it. It was the first birthday present I ever gave Kevin. I scrolled down through the comments. Damn girl, you're eating good. When did you get a boyfriend? OMG, we get it, your boyfriend has abs. I'm so jealous, ugh. I chuckled and liked the post. Jenna, this is just the beginning. We'll settle this score slowly. I turned off my phone and started practicing in my dance studio. Without the bracelet's influence, I was bursting with energy. I danced for hours without feeling the least bit tired. I looked at my healthy, whole legs and felt a wave of gratitude for this second chance. A few days later, Jenna called me in a panic. Luna, how's your prep for the competition going? Hearing the probing in her tone, I feigned exhaustion. Don't even ask. I'm so tired lately, I've barely practiced. I think it's just pre-competition jitters. I'm thinking of taking a break for a bit. Jenna let out a sigh of relief, her voice turning gentle. It's okay. I'm sure you'll be amazing. After hanging up, I dove back into my practice. A few days later, I got another call from Jenna. Luna, how are your parents doing? I glanced at the lovey-dovey couple in the living room and said flatly, it's a nightmare. They've been fighting nonstop. Nothing I do helps. But Jenna didn't sound relieved. Instead, she said, want me to come over and help? I'm pretty good at dealing with this stuff. After a moment's thought, I agreed. I hung up and turned to my parents. Someone's coming over in a bit. Can you guys act out a scene for me? Just pretend you're not getting along. My friend's a little messed up. My parents were confused, but they nodded anyway. I piled some junk on the dining table and messed up the sofa and chairs. It wasn't long before Jenna arrived. I gave my parents a look, and they immediately started fighting. Why are you bringing friends over when you're not doing anything to help? Isn't the house messy enough? Get out. Both of you get out. Jenna craned her neck, staring at the scene with a flash of relief in her eyes. I gestured for Jenna to follow me outside. You see? Things are pretty bad at my house right now. You probably shouldn't come in. Seeing all this, Jenna let out a breath, though she put on a worried tone. Oh, I was just so worried about you. I noticed a few new scars on her wrist. The marks were deep, not like she'd bumped into something, but like they were from human bites. After I convinced her to leave, I got in my car and quietly followed her. I trailed her all the way to her house and heard a loud crash from inside. Have you never fucking eaten before? You're gonna fight me for this too. And you, all you do is wander around all day, you useless piece of shit. Then came a woman's scream and begging. Don't bite me. Stop biting me. You're going to rip my flesh off. The sound of chewing was loud, punctuated by Jenna's pained cries. After a flurry of frantic sounds, the house finally fell silent. It seemed the bracelet for family had started to work. Jenna was getting her first taste of karma. But this was just the beginning. As expected, she was so busy these past few days that she didn't even update her social media. At our last get-together before the competition, Jenna was wearing heavy makeup to cover the dark circles under her eyes. She stared at my wrist, only relaxing when she confirmed all 3 bracelets were there. Luna, good luck with the competition. I replied wearily, yeah, I'll do my best. My life had been great lately, so I was looking healthy and radiant. To keep them from getting suspicious, I'd deliberately made myself look worn out. Ugh, my parents' fighting is getting worse. They're talking about divorce. I'm so stressed out, maybe I should just skip the competition. Hearing this, Jenna frowned and said loudly, no way. You've prepared for this for so long. You have to compete. Don't worry, I'll be there to support you. Of course she would. If I didn't compete, how could I be the control group for her dance prodigy act? I sneered inwardly. In my past life, my disastrous performance was the perfect contrast to hers. Online, everyone talked about the huge gap between us. I had been dancing for over a decade, yet I was worse than a complete beginner. The praise for Jenna was always paired with insults for me, and that was the final straw that broke me. This time, I looked at the fake bracelets on my wrist and smiled cryptically. I wonder who's going to make a fool of themselves. The day of the competition arrived quickly. I walked on stage wearing a custom dance costume my parents had made for me, shining brightly. With the experience of my past life, I felt no pressure this time. No matter what happened, it couldn't be worse than before. When I finished my dance, my parents were in the audience giving me a standing ovation, their eyes red with tears. Unsurprisingly, I won first place. They were waiting with a bouquet of flowers to take me out for a celebratory dinner. I was idly scrolling through my phone when a trending news alert popped up. Pig squeals at dance audition. A perversion of humanity or a moral collapse. My finger, which was about to swipe away, paused. I clicked on the story. The star of the trending video was, of course, Jenna. Just like in my last life, she had entered the preliminary round of the international dance competition. I remember in my last life, she made a name for herself on this stage and skipped straight to the finals. This time, it seemed she didn't even make it past the first round. In the video, she could barely stand straight. Even the most basic moves were clumsy and ugly. But she seemed completely unaware, flailing her short limbs around in a way that was genuinely laughable. To make matters worse, halfway through her dance, she suddenly started squealing like a pig, each squeal louder than the last. The judges and audience were stunned, quickly calling security to drag her away. She struggled, refusing to leave, her angry voice filling the venue. What are you doing? I'm a dance prodigy. Why are you kicking me out? I'm a genius. All of you should be kissing my feet. The guards just thought she was crazy and used more force to haul her off the stage. The video ended there. I could only imagine how humiliated Jenna must have been. I burst out laughing. Even just watching it on a screen, I could feel her total meltdown. A few moments later, my phone rang. It was Jenna, her voice hysterical. Luna, can you please come over? I feel so awful. Everything went wrong today. I was so sick. I need you. I agreed verbally, and after having dinner with my parents, I drove to Jenna's house. She looked like she had been crying for hours. Her eyes were swollen like walnuts, her face was tear-streaked, her hair was a mess, and she was deathly pale. When she saw me standing there perfectly fine, a flicker of hatred crossed her eyes. I could see the questions on her face, but I wasn't going to be the first to speak. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Through her sobs, she said, "Your competition went well, right? I heard you got first place." I said coolly, "You've never danced before, have you? I saw online you tried out for the preliminaries." Meeting my gaze, she shrank back a few steps. "That was an accident. I just wanted to go for fun. I didn't know that would happen." I just said oh, and left it at that. The competition had clearly hit a nerve. She couldn't stop herself from asking again. "How did you do so well? You said you were in bad shape these past few days." Her eyes quickly scanned my wrist and saw that the purple bracelet, the one for my studies, was gone. Jenna's whiny, crying voice stopped abruptly. It was replaced by a frantic question. "Where's your bracelet? Why aren't you wearing it?" I feigned innocence, my tone full of confusion. "You mean the purple one? Oh, my new pet mini pig really loves it, so I left it for him to play with today. I'll wash it and put it back on when I get home." The words mini pig hit Jenna like a ton of bricks. She struggled to remain calm, her face turning purple with rage. She even started making little grunting noises from her nose. She realized it herself, and her expression grew even uglier. The hatred in her eyes was so intense it felt like it could slice me into 1,000 pieces. "I got that bracelet for you, and you just casually gave it to an animal to wear. It's ruined, everything is ruined," she screamed, pacing her room in a frenzy, completely losing her composure. I noticed she was still breathing heavily through her nose, and instinctively took a few steps back. She really did look a bit like an animal right now. Pet pigs are cute. Besides, I'm still wearing the other two, right? Why are you so angry? I pretended to be hurt by her accusation. She froze, seemingly realizing she was overreacting. But she just stood there, stunned, not quite processing it. Okay, I'll put it back on when I get home. Don't be mad." I offered a few casual words of comfort. Jenna, though reluctant, had no choice but to accept. I was about to get up and leave when the front door was pushed open from the outside. Kevin walked in, his face dark. He froze when he saw me, then immediately changed his tone. "Jenna said you were here, so I came over." I didn't call him on his lie, just gave a non-committal response. I was just about to head back. "Want to walk out with me?" Before Kevin could answer, Jenna lunged at me from behind, wrapping her arms around me. Her usually petite frame seemed larger now, and the force of it made me stumble back. "I feel so sick, Luna. Please stay and keep me company?" She was talking to me, but her eyes were locked on Kevin. I fought back my disgust and said, "I have something urgent to do. Why don't you let Kevin stay and take care of you? I mean, the three of us are so close. It's only right that he helps out." With that, I ignored Kevin's stunned expression and walked straight out of that house. I thought things would unfold gradually, that Jenna would pay for her evil deeds step by step. I never expected things to escalate so quickly. A few days later, I got a call from Kevin. He sounded terrified, as if Jenna was some kind of monster. "Luna, something's happened at your friend's house. You have to get over here, quick." I could hear things crashing in the background, a chaotic symphony of bangs and smashes. It sounded like something serious was really going down. My heart started to pound with a mix of anticipation and excitement. Even though I had tried to mentally prepare myself on the way over, I was still shocked by what I saw when I arrived. Jenna's mother was pregnant, but it wasn't a normal pregnancy. She was less than a month along, but her stomach was enormous, bigger than most women at 4 or 5 months. Her father was just hunched over, shoveling food into his mouth and making squeaking noises. When his bowl was empty, he stared intently at his wife's belly, like a predator hiding in the shadows. Jenna's mother was screaming non-stop, her eyes glaring murderously at her husband. If people weren't holding them back, they would have literally torn each other apart. Seeing this, it finally sank in. The bracelets were this powerful. Jenna's family life was terrible to begin with. Her father was an abusive alcoholic, and her mother was a gambling thief. They often got into physical fights at home, but never had it been as bizarre as this. Jenna was so scared by the scene that her legs gave out, and she couldn't even stand. It was Kevin who called an ambulance to take her parents to the hospital. While her mother was being examined, Jenna finally found a moment to ask me, her voice trembling, "Your parents, they're getting along okay, right?" Her question was full of holes. Kevin shot her a harsh glare, and she quickly rephrased, "I mean, are they still fighting these days?" I looked down to hide the smile I could no longer contain and lowered my voice. "My mom's pregnant, but my dad doesn't want the baby. I think that's what started their fights. It's okay, I can handle it." Jenna stared at me for a long time before finally nodding. The test results came back soon, shocking everyone present. Jenna's mother was pregnant with duodecaplets. It was an extremely rare phenomenon, which explained her massive belly. The doctor gave Jenna a meaningful look and continued, "The patient's family members are not in a stable mental state. I suggest you get them an emergency psychiatric evaluation." Behind her, Jenna's father was gnawing on his own fingernails. Looking closely, you could see several were already chewed down to the quick. Jenna jumped up in a panic, trying to stop him, but her father shoved her away. "What are you doing? Who said you could touch me? Get lost. Don't think I don't know you're trying to steal my treasure." Her father's roars drew stares from everyone around them. No matter how thick-skinned Jenna was, she couldn't handle that many people looking at her. She turned to me, pleading, "Luna, you see the situation my family is in. But I'm completely broke. Can you lend me some money?" Even though I was still in college, I always worked part-time jobs, and my parents gave me a generous allowance, so I had a decent amount of savings. In the past, I'd lent Jenna money plenty of times. All she had to do was ask, and I'd give it to her. I never imagined my kindness would be feeding a snake. The more miserable my past life was, the more I hated her in this one. I sighed. It's not that I don't want to, but I'm broke. I had to pay for my dance costume for the competition a few days ago, and with my parents fighting, they froze my bank account. There's nothing I can do. As I spoke, I turned to Kevin. "Why don't you lend her the money? I can vouch for her. Jenna's not the type to borrow and not pay back." Kevin's lips trembled as he tried to refuse. "Kevin, we're such good friends. You wouldn't say no, would you?" Meeting my gaze, he had no choice but to nod, reluctantly handing his bank card to Jenna. It was a significant amount, and I could see the pain it caused him. Jenna's brain really did seem to have slowed down, maybe because of the bracelets. She wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead and dragged Kevin over to the payment counter. It was as if without Kevin, she couldn't do anything at all. I looked away and left the hospital. As her parents' relationship deteriorated, Jenna grew more anxious by the day. At first, she would just call me every few days to probe about my family situation. Now it was a daily call. To keep her from getting suspicious, I answered every single one, describing a situation that was getting progressively worse. Then a few days ago, Jenna just vanished off the face of the earth. She stopped calling completely. Several days passed. Suddenly, Kevin showed up and insisted on dragging me to the hospital. He looked like he was on the verge of a complete breakdown. His clothes were rumpled, his chin was covered in stubble, and he had deep, dark circles under his eyes. "Jenna, she's sick too." His eyes kept darting to the bracelets on my wrist before he reluctantly continued, "I'm taking you to see her now. I'm sure she wants to see you." I went with him. When I saw Jenna, I couldn't help but gasp. She was hooked up to tubes everywhere, but both of her arms were gone. Even though it was daytime, the hospital room was dark. A suspicion formed in my mind. I walked over and pulled open the curtains. Warm sunlight streamed in, but it made Jenna on the bed let out a piercing scream. As she screamed, she writhed on the bed. "Close them. It's too bright." Kevin rushed to pull the curtains shut, and only then did she quiet down. "The doctors can't figure out what's wrong with her. She just screams more and more every day, and her mental state is unstable." Then I wasn't watching her, and she ran out into the street. She got hit by a car. Looking at her empty sleeves, Kevin's voice was dry and hoarse. Jenna already had a congenital heart defect, and now she had contracted some unknown virus that was threatening her life. The hospital had issued several critical condition notices. She could die at any moment. One minute she'd be groaning in pain, the next she'd be calling Kevin's name over and over. A few minutes later, she seemed to regain her senses and pointed at me. The bracelets. The bracelets are on you. They're mine, they're all mine. After saying this, she fell unconscious again. Kevin froze and whipped his head around to look at me. Meeting my cold, controlled gaze, he took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for something. He tentatively reached for my wrist, but I pulled away. Luna, I have something to tell you. I gestured with my eyes for us to leave the room. We ended up in the hallway. He looked at me, his eyes dark and heavy, struggling to find the words. Just say it. I said flatly. You should stop wearing these bracelets. Jenna was trying to set you up. I can't tell you the details, but just take off the bracelets, and everything will be over. I let out a small laugh. You mean swapping our lives? If that's it, then you don't need to tell me anything, because I already know. He froze, his face turning pale. His usual confident demeanor vanished without a trace. You know? When did you find out? So, do you hate me? I shook my head, took his hand, and spoke softly. I know Jenna must have tricked you. You didn't really want to hurt me at all, right? Why don't we just let this play out? You end this, we'll pretend nothing ever happened, and we'll get married after graduation. He knew perfectly well that my family was well off. My parents ran a successful business, and their income was substantial. I had dozens of properties in my name. Marrying me would be his ticket out of a poor kid's life. In my past life, I never understood why Kevin wanted to harm me, not until the very end. This time, I finally realized. It was because my parents had proposed a prenup, forcing him to side with Jenna. He was dark and selfish. Why would he ever choose a woman with nothing over me, who was beautiful and wealthy? Instead of marrying me to achieve financial freedom, it was easier to just steal everything I had. He didn't end up marrying Jenna because he loved her either. It was because he knew her secret, and he could use it to control her. From start to finish, Kevin only ever thought about himself. Luna, he bit his lip, as if the decision was incredibly difficult. But I knew Kevin was the type of person who would do anything to get what he wanted. He would agree. So, I curved my eyes into a smile, making it look even more sincere. Kevin, this is simple. If you help me with this, I'll give you half of my assets after we get married. I know you're just insecure. Don't worry, I love you so much. How could I ever let you be sad? His wavering resolve began to solidify. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Kevin stopped her medical treatment, and Jenna was sent home. Not long after, I heard that her father had been committed to a psychiatric hospital. I saw the video circulating online and was stunned for a moment. With no money, Jenna's father and mother had started stealing things in the neighborhood, screaming and shouting. Even when the police took them in, there was nothing they could do. The neighbors all came out to complain. He stole the eggs from my house. And he snatched my grandson's cake. We hear strange noises from upstairs every night. Who wouldn't go crazy? Just lock people like that up so they don't harm society. At first, they would just take them in for a few days. But they would even chew on the iron bars at the police station. It was obvious they weren't mentally stable. What could be done? Soon, the video changed to a news report about her father's sentencing. Driven to desperation, Jenna's father had murdered her mother. The method was horrific. He had brutally cut open her stomach, revealing several undeveloped embryos inside. The smell of blood alerted a neighbor. When the neighbor looked over, Jenna's father was licking the blood off the floor. The neighbor was so terrified they immediately called the police and had him locked up. The incident blew up from a local disturbance to a major crime. Jenna's father was taken away, diagnosed with a mental illness, and sent to a psychiatric hospital. I didn't know how much of this was Kevin's doing, but I couldn't help but feel a chill. Kevin was ruthless. I had to get rid of a person like that as soon as possible. He worked fast. A few days later, he called me. You can come to Jenna's place this afternoon. Everything is ready. The only condition I had given him was that I wanted to witness Jenna's death with my own eyes. Kevin didn't suspect a thing. He just assumed I hated her so much that I wanted to watch her pathetic, dying struggle. I went as planned. Jenna was lying limply on the bed. Her head had swollen to a grotesque size. The wrinkles on her face stretched smooth. I thought she had lost her mind, but when she saw me, she became agitated. It was you. You did this to me on purpose. You planned all of this, didn't you? I didn't say much. I just walked to the side, sat down, and enjoyed the sight of her miserable state. If you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place. This is just your karma. I leaned in and whispered, so only the two of us could hear. Guess why your dad suddenly bit your mom to death? It was Kevin. Kevin told me about your scheme a long time ago, so I never wore the bracelets you gave me. And all that stuff about him loving you? It was all lies. You can ask him yourself. I just felt sorry for you. I wanted to tell you the truth before you die, so you don't die not knowing why. Jenna's eyes slowly widened, and her heavy breathing became more and more pronounced. I was about to say more, but Kevin clicked his tongue impatiently, and I got up. I changed my mind. This is too gruesome. I can't watch. Kevin pursed his lips. You're so much trouble. I didn't say anything else. I closed the door and walked out quickly. Kevin didn't ask any more questions. Soon, a scream came from inside the room, but it was muffled, as if a hand had been clamped over a mouth, and it stopped abruptly. I called 911 from around the corner. The police arrived quickly. They kicked down the door. The room was a wreck, blood everywhere. Both of them had passed out on the floor. Jenna was on top of Kevin. Her teeth latched onto his throat. There was a deep, bloody gash on her own neck, with blood pouring out. The police checked their vitals and breathed a small sigh of relief. Luckily, neither of them was dead. The police had no choice but to call another ambulance and load them both onto it. Seeing this outcome, I finally relaxed. I had never planned on letting Kevin kill Jenna. My goal was to have them both brought to justice so they could never harm anyone again. The final outcome was just as I had hoped. Kevin received a heavier sentence. Jenna was considered to be acting in self-defense, but she was now mentally unstable, disabled, and had no family to take care of her. Under pressure to get her to sign a plea agreement, Kevin's parents had to take responsibility for her. Jenna was no saint. She was incredibly malicious, and in her lucid moments, she took pleasure in tormenting the old couple. For the sake of their son, they had no choice but to endure it. I guess what goes around comes around. Kevin's opportunistic parents from my past life were now getting the punishment they deserved. I went to visit Kevin once. When he saw me, he became agitated, yanked back by the chains on his wrists. Just wait till I get out. This isn't over between us. As long as I'm alive, I will kill you. You just wait. Even through the partition, it felt like his spit was going to hit my face. I enjoyed his desperate, pathetic display and said calmly, "Is that so? Well, good luck with that. Let's see if you can survive the next 20 years first." He started screaming and shouting, and security guards quickly moved in to restrain him. As they dragged him away, he stared at me with pure hatred, as if he could burn a hole right through me. I didn't care. I even had the energy to flash him a peace sign. When I got home, I suggested to my parents that we move to a new city. The climate here wasn't great for living anyway, and they had already been planning to move after I graduated. We planned for a long time and finally chose an auspicious day to leave the city, and for me, to leave all that drama behind. With my perfect resume, I became a dance teacher, guiding more people onto the path of dance. 20-something years flew by. I finally learned about Jenna and Kevin's fates on a TV news report. Although Jenna was disabled, Kevin's parents had taken good care of her over the years, and she had signed the plea agreement. Kevin was released early from prison. The first thing he did was search for me. When he couldn't find me anywhere, he unleashed all his pent-up rage on Jenna. Ignoring his parents' pleas, he took a knife and stabbed Jenna to death. "You fucking bitch, you set me up. You set me up." He repeated those words over and over, his expression crazed, like he had completely lost his mind. He had just gotten out, and now he was sentenced to death. I once went back to my old town to see if I could find those 3 cursed bracelets. But no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find any trace of them. It was as if with their deaths, the story had slowly come to an end. This time, no one could ever affect me again. In contrast, my own life was full. I had a happy family, and a pair of wonderful children. My parents were healthy, my husband was gentle and loving. Everything was the best it could be. My daughter had grown into a beautiful young woman. Seeing me watching the news, she frowned and turned off the TV. Mom, you should watch less of this stuff. It's too dark. She changed the channel to a rom-com, and I didn't protest. Okay, I won't watch. My son just got home, holding up a report card with straight A's, grinning at me. Mom, I got first place again. I beamed, my chest filling with happiness. My husband had cooked a full spread, and the delicious aroma filled the air. Sweethearts, come and eat. The kids obediently went to wash their hands. My husband secretly planted a kiss on my forehead. I looked at the feast on the table, my appetite soaring, and ate 2 extra bowls of rice. Life is still so long and so beautiful. This life, at last, was not lived in vain. The end.